It's my pleasure to be speaking with Mark Swan today of Kidethic. He's very fortunate to have a design studio beside the sea. It's been established for about a decade, and Mark has worked in the creative industry for a good 20 years, working predominantly in the publishing, film, and music industries. But that doesn't preclude him from accepting any other challenges outside of that brief. So
Not at all.
I crossed paths with Mark, and Mark kindly undertook the design work for my new novel, Project Deadhead. And as a fan of his work, I'm delighted that Mark has agreed to come and have a chat with me today and touch upon his career and perhaps delve into his design process. So, how are you today, Mark?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, like I say, by the sea, it's a bit grim out there, but yeah, got the heater on, all is well.
Has the wind calmed down a bit for you over there?
Yeah, we were good. Yeah, we had the usual, fence falls down, that sort of thing. But yeah, no, it can be quite dramatic, and it's lovely to go down and look at the huge crashing waves, and appreciate the power of Mother Nature sometimes.
Well, I did get to appreciate the power of Mother Nature last weekend. I was down at Swanage I was
Oh,
doing a half marathon along the
oh
coastline,
wow. Oh, that must
and
have been hard work.
it was. So
Uh,
anyway, let's not dwell
well
on
done.
me. I'm going to bowl a few questions at you, Mark. So
Okay.
really looking forward to this. So the first one is: were the arts your first choice of career?
I wanted to be a vet. I think when I first started, when I was a kid, I liked the idea of that, but my mum told me that I'd have to put down animals sometimes. I didn't quite like the idea of that. So, but I always liked drawing, and I think I probably sort of gravitated towards it a bit more because people liked what I was doing, and they liked the drawings that I did, which of course as a kid is something that you crave from adults, I suppose, is sort of appreciation of something that you're doing. So I sort of just kept on doing it, and but you'd really lose yourself drawing. Hours would pass, and but yeah, I kind of started off copying comic book stuff. I just copied and copied and copied, and then I became I decided that that was the best thing for me to do, and I really enjoyed it. And so yeah, I would say, apart from the kind of like I want to be an astronaut, I want to be a fireman, blah blah blah. I think definitely the arts was something that I thought I was good at, and I enjoyed doing, which I suppose is the perfect sort of combination as a career.
Have you got any of those early works?
I think in the attic, I think there's some knocking around. I seem to remember the first one I did that no one believed I'd done was a picture of Megatron from Transformers, and no one believed that I had drawn it. So they thought my brother, who was older, had done it. So I thought, hang on, I'm onto something here. So yeah, but I used to make my own comic books and sell those to friends and stuff like that. So yeah, couldn't,
Was there any particular thing that sparked you down the particular drawing route or
I
particular
suppose
types of
it's
things
when
that you did?
I first discovered American comics, I suppose, and Spider-Man stuff when I was a kid, and I got really obsessed with redrawing those things like 2000 AD. I was massively into that, Judge Dredd, and that was an amazing comic book. But yeah, it would have been comic book art was my first in, to the creative world.
So young Mark has discovered this passion for this type of design work. But actually, what led you to graphic design? What was the next step?
Well, I studied illustration at university, and then when I came out of university, I wasn't really sure what I should be doing or where I should be going, and so I was lucky enough to get into illustration. I used to have a weekly column in the Financial Times for a while, and I do illustration work for magazines, and I kind of moved more into sort of montage stuff. There is a fantastic designer and illustrator called Dave McKean, who I was obsessed with, and he sort of opened up my creative mind to the prospect of using anything. It didn't have to be just like drawn pencils. You could, find a rock and use that in there, a leaf and this kind of montage thing. So I started doing a lot of that. And then a friend of mine had sent some work off to the British Film Institute to do some book cover work. And like a lot of people at well, for me anyway, I was like, well, I'll do that. I'll copy him. So I did that, and I got a commission to do a book on Alfred Hitchcock, who I was a big fan of at the time. Anyway,
What did it feel like to get that first commission? That must have been very exciting.
well, it was yeah, it really was amazing to get an actual paid commission, because to get paid to do something you love is it's rare, and a real joy, and especially to do with the director that I loved his films. Vertigo at the time, and probably still is one of my favorite films of all time. Uh, so yeah, it was so yeah, a little bit daunting when you realize you've got to sort of produce the goods now, but it went well. Realizing that I was good at it, I suppose. As most artists, you're never at that point where you think, hey, I'm great. I can do this and I can do that. And I think that's part of the joy of being an artist, is never being good enough. Because I think the day you think you're good or good enough, then you should probably just quit. So you
With
need to
the
constantly be chasing.
there are sort of parallels with the writing process. Sometimes you never really know quite when you've finished that piece of work. Do you have a similar
Yeah.
thing? If you were
Yes.
given endless time, would you be forever playing with something?
Very much so, yeah. If I'm given 3 weeks, I'll take 3 weeks. If I'm given to 3 hours, I'll take 3 hours. And and I've done projects that I'm really proud of in 3 hours, and I've done ones that have taken longer and had time to. I think sometimes thinking too much about stuff. I always liken it to if you write down a word and stare at a word for like 20 minutes, the word stops making sense. So sometimes
Yeah,
you to be able to sort of step back or step away. So sometimes when you are just sort of going off that creative adrenaline, you produce some really fantastic work, because you don't overly think stuff. You just go on instinct,
instinct. Yeah,
and
yeah,
that really
nice.
works for you sometimes. Sometimes it's a disaster, but
You've kind of touched on my next part of my next question, which is, could you describe your general process?
well, yeah, I suppose when it varies from project to project, it depends on the sort of information I've got. But generally, I'll get the brief, and I'll sit down with the brief. I like to print it out, so I sort of have a physical copy of it, and I can sort of underline stuff, circle things. Uh, I mean, the dream is when you get a project, when you're reading the brief, you'll immediately an image will pop into your head. There'll be something that just sort of sparks a visual. You're in trouble when that doesn't happen. You're like, oh God, I've got nothing here. But yeah, you'll read the brief. Then I've got like a books all back here, art books. Obviously, there's the internet, so you'll look for inspiration on that. I'll do kind of word association stuff. I'll write down a word and then sort of see where that word takes me. Um, Sometimes I'll get a brief and they're very specific about the sort of things they want. So you're more sort of like a world builder, I suppose, a scene creator. So the sort of things that they want. So you'll go on picture libraries and you'll start to find those images that you can put together to create that image. For example, with a Project Deadhead, that was more of a sit down with a sketchbook. I don't have the drawings here, but I do have a sketchbook somewhere that has a drawing of that cover on it. And you sort of write down words, scenes from the book, concepts from the book, and then yeah, you try and make an image out of it. And then it's a question of just sort of playing around. Sometimes it's much like a writer, it's the blank page. You'll get a blank page up and then you just start working, see what happens.
I'd looked up a few of your previous interviews that you did, and noticed that as part of your mood board creation, you like to listen to music, and
Very much so.
so if you get a few samples of music from the author or from the person you're working for, it helps to create that atmosphere. Now, I have to say, Mark, I loved it forced me to think in a very different way about what I
Yes.
was writing, and I had a lot of fun going through my music collection, picking up a few suggestions to send to you. So that
Yeah.
was
Well,
terrific.
that's great. No, I really appreciated it. And I think that music can, for me, always just creates a mood when I'm working. Uh, there's a lot of the music I listen to is kind of narrative based, as in like it's ambient, so your brain will go on a little journey and uh, take you into different worlds in your head. But yeah, music's always been hugely important in my work, in my life. A massive inspiration to everything that I do, and it is lovely. I have had a few authors recently who have sent me playlists saying this is the sort of stuff I was listening to when it's writing, and this stuff will seep into the book whether you're aware of it or not when you're writing, that inspiration.
I've been so delighted with the jacket that you created for
Good.
me, and I've been to a number of festivals now, exhibiting my title, and the reaction to your work has been incredible. People are
Good to
really
hear.
drawn, really drawn by the. Sorry to embarrass you, but I have to
Oh
say,
no, no, it's nice to hear. I mean, that's what that's why I do it, is so your book can get noticed, and if it is getting noticed, then that's the job done.
well, I've created a pop-up banner with your
Oh,
jacket
nice.
on there, so that sits on the table, and I've got a number of other items there, and also you created the design for publishing wing that I
Yes, really
created.
enjoyed doing that.
And
Yeah,
that's been a lot of fun putting that onto merch, like mugs
yeah.
and things. But if you can imagine a bank of 12 of those on the table, it really, really cuts a very pleasing image.
Well, it's a
So,
high contrast cover, so I think uh,
well, right.
I tend to sort of go to things that have high contrast on them, and I would think, yeah, together, lots of them together would definitely grab attention, I hope. But yeah, with the logo, it was really a fun thing to do. I haven't really done logos before, um, so it's always a bit daunting. But yeah, I got massively into that. I think I was working on it quite a bit, and then I got home because I have a computer at home as well. So then I sort of got at home and I kept on working at it, and there was a real excitement
Oh,
whilst
that's
designing.
really pleasing to hear. I have to say, it's acted as a, as a motivator, Mark, to actually get my next book written because it means I can look forward to the very exciting process of working with you again to
That would be
create the
lovely.
next create the
I'd
next
be more
jacket.
than happy
So,
to carry on the creative partnership,
is
as it were.
are you much of a reader yourself? Do you have much time to do that?
I don't really have a lot of time, and I am massively slow at reading, but I do enjoy a good audiobook because I tend to find that when I walk to work, I listen to it. So right now, I read it a long time ago, but I'm now re-listening to the audiobook of American Psycho, which I remember when I was younger, I read it and probably didn't quite understand it, but yeah, it still holds up very well to these times. But yeah, I can tend to find I can just sort of wash up, do the cleaning around the house, whatever, whilst I'm listening, or go for a walk on the beach.
That's very
But
time
yeah,
efficient.
the only time I can read is in the evening, and generally staring at tiny little pixels on a screen all day, and then going to tiny little words on a page at home. I'll get through like 4 pages and then fall asleep.
What does the future hold for Mark Swan?
I think overall, yeah, I've always been happy doing book cover stuff. I mean, I've always managed to tick the box, tick all the boxes of creativity that I wanted to do or want to do. Especially in, publishing allows you to work in so many different genres and so many different styles with so many different mediums that I feel really blessed to have been able to create covers and designs I'm really proud of. I'm aware that there's designers out there who haven't been as fortunate to get themselves into maybe a side of the industry that allows them to do that. So yeah, I never take it for granted that I can still create these images, and I mean, I've always said I'm pretty much doing very similar thing I did to when I was a kid. I sit around, I listen to music, and I make pictures all day, which is what I was doing when I was a kid. But now people pay me to do it. But
Well,
yeah, I mean, I'd like to, do more music stuff. I've always wanted to do more moving image things. I made a music video a couple of years ago, and I really enjoyed doing that. Which would be nice to do those sort of things. But I tend to find that I'm really busy making book covers all the time. So other paths, as much as I'd love to be able to do it, creatively, I still feel very fulfilled being a book cover designer. But yeah, there's always things. It's always good to sort of to have plans to do new things. But currently, yeah, book cover work, thankfully, still keeps me very busy, which I feel, yeah, like I say, very
Well,
blessed to be
that's
busy
good news.
still.
That's good news for me anyway. It's good that you're still going to be keeping at it. Well, Mark, it's been an absolute delight chatting with you this morning. Thank you so
Yeah,
much
a real
for
pleasure,
for
Bob.
giving of your time.
Yeah, and I hope that we can work together again in the very futuristic sounding 2025.
All right, you take care, Mark. All the
Nice
best.
one.
Bye
Thank you,
bye.
Bob.